Hi there everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Prestige Liquids. My name is Andrew, and as always it is fantastic to have you here with me again on another whiskey review video. If you're a returning subscriber, thank you for joining me along my journey so far, and if you're new to the channel, then make sure that you go ahead and hit that bell notification and the subscription button so that you can stay up to date with all future content. Now in today's video I'm going to be reviewing another Starward whiskey. For those of you who have been following me for some time now, you would, I guess, very easily know that I am a massive Starward fan. Starward is an Australian distillery. They are located in Melbourne, Victoria. So one of my more recent videos, I have reviewed one of their two most recent one of their two most recent releases. So Starward have released, I guess, two of their small batch or like project releases. The first one that I reviewed a little while ago was the cherry wood smoked whiskey. In today's video, I'm going to be reviewing the mesquite, the mesquite smoked malt whiskey. Now, if you have not yet seen the cherry wood review, what I have done is that I do have a playlist set up of all my Starward reviews. So I'll put a link down in the description down below and an info card up the top so that you guys can have some nice easy access to those reviews. Now, as I mentioned today, I'm going to be reviewing the mesquite smoked whiskey. So I'm going to be, let's pour a little sample now and then we'll move on to the review. Now, as I mentioned with the cherry wood, both of these releases have been aged in ex-Apera casks. So for those of you who aren't aware, Apera is Australian, it is Australian sherry. Obviously for, I guess, legal reasons, we aren't able to call our sherry, it is known as Apera. So this release has been put out at 55% ABV. Again, another small release from Starward. There was only 660 of these bottles released. So again, very lucky to be able to have gotten my hands on these. Yeah, let's move on to the review and let's see what we get. So, first of all, let's check out that color. It's just a nice golden straw color. Oh, very like light amber, very nice. Even, I say, just pouring it now, you're getting some really nice notes coming out of the glass. It's funny, already, I mean, I haven't really poured that much of this. You can see I've kind of just gone below the shoulder of the bottle. But initially, when I first opened it from the neck pour, it was all smoke. It was a very smoke forward whiskey. Right now, I am still getting those smoky notes, but I think now the cask is able to come through quite well at the moment. So first off, you'll notice a lot of fruits. So I'm getting your typical apples, pears, grapes, some dried fig, I'm getting a light hint of that characteristic banana note that you get from Starward. Citrus. So for citrus, I'm getting like orange zest, touch of lime. Oh, what a waste. I'm splashing some now. Come on. Yeah. So citrus and lime zest. Dare I say lychee? Yeah, there's definitely like a lychee sweetness coming out. Can't say I've really had that in a whiskey before. That's interesting. And moving along from the fruits, then you'll definitely start to notice the smoke. Starward have actually been able to integrate the smoke characteristics into this whiskey extremely well. There is a very nice harmonious balance coming through. The smoke does not overpower or dominate the rest of the notes that are coming through. It just balances and ties them up really, really well. So as you're getting all those like fruity notes that are coming through from the whiskey, you're getting these nice subtle aromas of smoke that just envelope all those other characteristics. Now, this is not a peated whiskey. Like I said, it's the malt has been smoked using mesquite, but this is, again, as I mentioned with the cherrywood smoked malt, this is probably the most Isla style like character. It is definitely the most Isla style whiskey or Australian whiskey I have had so far. And funnily enough, I had kind of put out a question amongst the other like Facebook groups and whatnot, asking, I guess, what are the most like Australian Isla style whiskies you've had. And for me, I've finally been able to get my hands on them, and that's definitely these Starward releases so far. They are very much an Australian Isla style of whiskey. All right, let's move on to the palate and let's see what we get. So cheers. Thin mouthfeel. It's definitely not a very thick whiskey, but it has a nice medium to long, like, yeah, just a nice medium to long. I just, I can't bring out the words. Yeah, it's just a nice medium to long palate. You'll definitely notice that the smoke is a lot more heavier on the palate than what it is on the nose. So all those fruity characteristics that I was getting very dominant on the nose take a step back and allow the smoke to be the dominant feature of the palate. So it's kind of, I'd say definitely wood smoke, slightly sulfury. You will notice the more oaky characteristics of the barrel coming through. So more vanilla and caramel. Funny enough, the mouthfeel as well is also very dry. You just instantly feel all that moisture just being sapped out of your mouth. And then as that smoke goes away, then the fruits start to come through. So now I'm getting more of those orangey notes that I was getting from the nose. Not so much of the lime, but it is there. That lychee note is definitely gone. I am no longer getting any more of that. But again, apples, pears, as I mentioned, the vanilla and caramel. I am absolutely loving the oak influence that's coming through from this. It's not an overpowering note at all. Sometimes you can get very oak dominated Australian whiskies, but these ones have been actually balanced out extremely well. That oaky influence just integrates extremely well with the rest of the profile of the whiskey. So now towards the back end of the palate, then you will start to notice, I guess, the malt. You've just got this nice subtle barley taste that's coming through, and the smoke just keeps wafting and wafting after during each layer of the tasting notes that you get. I just love how well integrated the smoke is. It has not dominated in any way. It just comes along and mingles with everything. It's like your best friend at a party. It can just it just gets along well with everybody. It's absolutely fantastic. The finish surprisingly is not very intense. Having this 55% ABV and also the very smoky characteristics, you would kind of expect it to have a very intense finish, but it doesn't. It's quite mellow. In the finish, I'm picking up more vanillas and honeys. It is sweeter. Uh, let's say a little bit of fruits coming through. So again, more of like your apples and like dried figs and things like that. But then again, that smoke just comes along and balances everything. Yeah, it just balances everything perfectly. I don't know if many of you have been able to see these releases at all, or to being able to get your hands on them. Unfortunately, I know with the cherry smoked, for example, that only had 300 bottles available and it sold out extremely quickly. When last I checked, the mesquite was still available. So if you're able to get your hands on these, I do highly recommend it. I'm sure, unfortunately, I can imagine secondary prices for these will probably be ridiculously high. I don't really recommend people going out to spend those types of crazy prices unless you really want it. Um, but these two whiskies have been a perfect example of what Starward are able to do when they kind of break out of their comfort zone and experiment a little bit. I mean, we're all used to those very the heavily wine influenced releases of the core range. I'm so glad that they do more of these experimental releases, because it just really shows what the distillery has to offer, that they are able to, I guess, break free of the constraints of the core range and give their followers something different. You're not always going to be getting the same product from them, and I think that's a really good thing. I'm very happy that I'm able to have been able to get these whiskies. So I think that's it. I think you've all heard me ramble on a little bit too much, so I'm gonna end it here, and that's it. I'll see you all again on the next video. Get this.